Most people lose their lives not because they are weak, but because they are loud inside. They react too fast. They explain too much. They speak when silence would give them power. This audiobook is about the discipline of silence. Not silence as weakness, but silence as control. Silence as strategy. Silence as dominance. Calm people always win. Not because they move faster, but because they move last. If you can control your mouth, your emotions, and your impulses, you can control outcomes, people, and pressure. Listen carefully. This is not motivation. This is training. Chapter 1. Silence is not weakness, it is control. Silence has been misunderstood for too long. People think silence means fear. They think silence means submission. They think silence means you have nothing to say. They are wrong. Silence is not weakness. Silence is control. And control is the foundation of everything you want to become. Most people leak power all day long. They leak it through their words. They leak it through their reactions. They leak it through emotional responses they didn't need to give. That's the key. Every time you react emotionally, you give something away. You give away attention. You give away leverage. You give away authority. You have a choice. You can react instantly, or you can pause. You can explain yourself, or you can let silence do the work. Silence removes emotional leakage. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding chaos. When you stop feeding chaos, you start conserving power. Look around you. The loudest people are always exhausted. They are constantly explaining, constantly defending, constantly proving. And the calm ones? They are watching. They are listening. They are deciding. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. That's not an opinion. That's a pattern. People who talk too much are trying to control how they are perceived. People who stay silent are controlling themselves. And self-control is real power. You don't need their permission to be silent. You don't need approval to pause before responding. You don't need validation to hold your ground quietly. Silence is a signal. It signals confidence. It signals restraint. It signals that you are not emotionally available to be pulled into nonsense. That's the key. When someone insults you, and you immediately respond, you've already lost. When someone challenges you, and you rush to explain, you've handed them control. When someone provokes you, and you react emotionally, you've given them exactly what they wanted. Attention, energy, reaction. You have a choice. You can react like everyone else. Or you can stay calm and let them reveal themselves. Calm people don't rush to prove anything. They don't argue their worth. They don't defend their direction. They let results speak. While others talk themselves into exhaustion, calm people quietly work. While others explain their plans, calm people are executing. While others seek validation, calm people are stacking evidence. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. Anyone can feel confident for a moment. Anyone can feel brave when things are easy. But discipline is what keeps you silent when your ego wants to speak. That's the difference. Silence is uncomfortable at first. Your mind will scream. Your ego will beg you to respond. Your emotions will demand release. But discipline says no. Discipline says, not everything deserves a response. Discipline says, not every thought needs to be spoken. Discipline says, I choose control. That's the key. You don't win by reacting faster. You win by reacting less. Think about negotiations. The person who speaks first usually gives up leverage. The person who fills the silence is usually nervous. The person who stays calm forces the other side to adjust. Silence applies pressure without effort. In conflict, silence disarms. In conversations, silence unsettles. In life, silence protects. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. Because they are predictable. Because they are emotional. Because they can be triggered. Calm people are unpredictable. You don't know what they're thinking. You don't know what they're planning. and that uncertainty creates respect. You have a choice. Next time you feel the urge to respond immediately, pause. Count to 5. Breathe. Let the moment pass. Ask yourself one question. Does this require my energy? Most of the time, the answer is no. Silence is not avoidance. It's selection. You select what deserves your attention. You choose what deserves your words. You choose what deserves your emotional investment. Everything else gets nothing. That's discipline. And discipline compounds. The more you practice silence, the stronger your emotional control becomes. The stronger your control becomes, the less external noise affects you. The less noise affects you, the more precise your thinking becomes. Clear thinking leads to better decisions. Better decisions lead to better outcomes. Better outcomes speak louder than any explanation ever could. You don't need their permission to grow quietly. You don't need to announce your plans. You don't need to justify your pace. Silence protects the process. People sabotage themselves by talking too early. They announce goals they haven't earned yet. They explain dreams they haven't worked on yet. And then pressure arrives. Expectations arrive. Doubt arrives. Calm people avoid this trap. They move in silence. They build in private. They show results later. That's the key. Silence is not passive. Silence is active restraint. It is the discipline of holding back when every instinct tells you to push forward emotionally. It's not about being shy. It's not about being introverted. It's not about fear. It's about control. Control over your mouth. Control over your emotions. Control over your impulses. You have a choice. You can leak energy all day. Or you can conserve it. You can react to everything. Or you can respond only to what matters. You can be loud and forgettable. Or calm and respected. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. Remember that. Silence is where your power starts. Before discipline in action. Before focus. Before mental toughness. There is silence. Because if you cannot control your reactions, nothing else matters. Master silence, and you master yourself. And once you master yourself, pressure loses its grip. You've learned that silence is not weakness. It is control. Now, let's go deeper. Because emotional reactions are not just loud. They are expensive. Chapter 2. Emotional reactions are expensive. Every reaction has a cost. Most people never calculate it. They react first. They pay later. That's why they stay stuck. Emotional reactions are expensive. Not in money at first, but in respect, in trust, in leverage, in long-term outcomes. That's the key. Every time you lose control of your emotions, you are making a payment. You are paying with your image. You are paying with your authority. You are paying with future opportunities you will never even see. You have a choice. You can react emotionally and feel relief for a few seconds. Or you can stay disciplined and keep your power. Most people choose relief. They choose the short-term comfort of expression over the long-term benefit of control. And that choice keeps them average. Think about it. How many times have you sent a message you later regretted? How many times have you spoken in anger and paid for it days, weeks, or years later? How many doors closed because you couldn't pause? That was the cost. Emotional reactions feel free in the moment, but they come with interest. High interest. One emotional outburst can erase years of quiet credibility. One impulsive reaction can destroy a reputation you worked hard to build. One uncontrolled moment can define how people see you forever. That's the price. Calm people understand this. They treat emotions like money. They spend them carefully. They ask, is this worth it? They ask, what is the return? They ask, what does this cost me later? That's discipline. It's not about suppressing emotions. It's about managing them. You don't need their permission to stay calm. You don't need approval to hold your reaction. You don't need validation to choose restraint. You have a choice. Emotional people are predictable. Push them, and they explode. Pressure them, and they crack. Challenge them, and they react. Predictability is weakness. Calm people are expensive to provoke. You don't get a reaction easily. You don't get access to their emotions on demand. And because of that, people tread carefully around them. That's the key. In workplaces, emotional reactions cost promotions. In relationships, they cost trust. In leadership, they cost respect. No one says it out loud, but everyone notices. People remember how you made them feel under pressure. They remember whether you stayed composed or lost control. Silence is free. Reactions are costly. Most people think being emotional makes them authentic. They think speaking their truth is strength. It's not. It's exposure without protection. Authenticity without discipline is chaos. It's not about honesty. It's about control. Calm people still feel anger. They still feel frustration. They still feel pressure. They just don't let those emotions make decisions for them. That's the difference. You have a choice. When someone disrespects you, you can react emotionally, or you can respond strategically. When something goes wrong, you can panic, or you can assess. When plans fail, you can complain, or you can adapt. Every situation asks the same question. Who's in control right now? If your emotions are loud, they are in control. If you are calm, you are. That's the key. Emotional reactions also drain energy. They exhaust you mentally. They scatter your focus. After an emotional episode, you feel tired. Not because the situation was hard, but because you leaked energy. Calm conserves energy. Silence preserves stamina. And stamina is what wins long games. People who react emotionally burn out early. People who stay calm last longer. It's not about intensity. It's about endurance. That's discipline. Here's a hard truth. Most conflicts are optional. Most arguments are unnecessary. Most emotional reactions are self-inflicted wounds. You don't need to attend every fight you're invited to. You don't need to correct every comment. You don't need to defend every decision. You have a choice. Ask yourself this before reacting. What does this cost me? If it costs peace, walk away. If it costs leverage, stay silent. If it costs focus, ignore it. That's maturity. That's power. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. But the most emotional person is usually the most expensive, to themselves. They pay again and again. And they never understand why life feels heavy. Calm people move differently. They don't argue in public. They don't vent impulsively. They don't send emotional messages late at night. They wait. They let emotions pass before decisions are made. Because emotions are temporary. Consequences are not. That's the key. If you want practical discipline, start here. Delay your reactions by 24 hours. Especially when you feel angry, offended, or excited. Most emotional decisions look foolish the next day. Silence gives you time. Time gives you clarity. Clarity gives you advantage. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need to explain why you're quiet. You don't owe anyone instant access to your emotions. You have a choice. The world rewards people who can stay calm under pressure. Not because they are cold, but because they are reliable. Reliability is rare, and rare qualities are valuable. Emotional reactions make you unreliable. Silence makes you stable. And stability attracts trust. Trust attracts opportunity. Opportunity changes lives. That's the real cost-benefit calculation. Every time you stay calm, you save something. Every time you react emotionally, you lose something. The question is simple. What are you willing to pay? Master this, and you stop bleeding energy, respect, and momentum. You've learned that emotional reactions are expensive. They cost more than they're worth. Now it's time to go deeper. Because silence doesn't just save power. It creates strategy. Chapter 3. The calm mind thinks 2 moves ahead. Speed feels powerful, but speed without calm is blind. Most people confuse fast reactions with intelligence. They think answering quickly means thinking clearly. They think moving fast means moving smart. It doesn't. A calm mind always thinks 2 moves ahead. An emotional mind can barely see the next second. That's the key. When you react emotionally, your vision narrows. You see the insult, not the intention. You see the problem, not the pattern. You see the moment, not the outcome. Calm expands vision. Calm creates distance between stimulus and response. And in that distance, strategy is born. You have a choice. You can react to what just happened, or you can prepare for what happens next. Most people live one move at a time. They react. They respond. They recover. Then they repeat the cycle. That's why they stay predictable. Calm people break this loop. They pause. They observe. They think. And while others are busy reacting, calm people are positioning. That's discipline. Think about chess. Beginners focus on the current move. Experts think 3, 4, 5 moves ahead. Life works the same way. If you are emotional, you are playing checkers. If you are calm, you are playing chess. The calm mind asks different questions. Not how do I feel, but what happens next? Not how do I respond, but what does this lead to? That's the key. When someone provokes you, the emotional mind thinks, I need to defend myself. The calm mind thinks, if I stay silent, what will they reveal? When pressure rises, the emotional mind thinks, this is urgent. The calm mind thinks, this is information. Calm turns chaos into data, and data is power. You don't need their permission to slow down. You don't need approval to think before you speak. You don't need validation to choose restraint over reaction. You have a choice. In negotiations, the calm person wins. Because they are not desperate. Because they are not rushed. Because they are not emotionally attached to immediate outcomes. They are thinking 2 moves ahead. They know silence creates pressure. They know patience forces mistakes. They know time exposes weaknesses. Emotional people reveal their hand too early. They show excitement. They show fear. They show need. Calm people show nothing. And what you don't reveal cannot be used against you. That's discipline. A calm mind also plans for consequences. Emotional minds plan for relief. Relief says, say it now. Calm says, what happens after? Every word you speak creates a future moment. Every reaction sets a chain in motion. Calm people understand this. They don't just ask, is this true? They ask, is this useful? They don't just ask, can I say this? They ask, should I? That's the key. Most regret comes from short-term thinking, from one-move decisions, from emotional urgency. Calm eliminates regret by extending perspective. You see beyond the moment. You see beyond ego. You see beyond impulse. You have a choice. When emotions rise, you can narrow your focus, or you can widen it. Widening focus is a skill, and like any skill, it must be trained. Here's how calm people train it. They slow their breathing. They relax their jaw. They lower their internal volume. Physical calm creates mental clarity. Then they ask one simple question. What is the smartest move, not the loudest one? That question changes everything. It shifts you from reaction to strategy, from emotion to execution, from noise to control. That's discipline. Calm people also understand timing. They know that the best move is often delayed. They know that waiting creates advantage. They know that silence can force the other side to act first. And the one who acts first usually exposes themselves. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. But the fastest person to react is usually the easiest to manipulate. Speed reveals intention. Calm hides it. That's the key. In life, opportunities favor those who can wait. Those who don't panic. Those who don't rush decisions under emotional pressure. Calm minds don't chase. They attract. Because they are stable. Because they are clear. Because they are deliberate. You don't need their permission to think long-term. You don't need to match anyone's urgency. You don't need to explain why you're not rushing. You have a choice. Most people are playing short games. They want immediate wins. Immediate validation. Immediate relief. Calm people play long games. They trade speed for accuracy. They trade noise for positioning. They trade reactions for results. That's why they win quietly. A calm mind also sees patterns others miss. When you are emotional, you are inside the storm. When you are calm, you are above it. From above, everything looks different. You see who repeats the same behavior. You see who always reacts the same way. You see who is predictable. And predictability is exploitable. Calm people don't just protect themselves. They gain insight. That's discipline. If you want to think 2 moves ahead, you must stop living inside your emotions. Emotions are signals, not commands. They inform you. They do not decide for you. You decide. You have a choice. Every moment gives you that choice. React now, or think ahead. Speak quickly, or position silently. Follow emotion, or follow strategy. That's the difference between those who survive situations and those who control them. Calm is not slow. Calm is precise. Calm is not passive. Calm is intentional. Calm is not weak. Calm is dangerous because it sees further. You've learned that silence gives you control. You've learned that emotional reactions are expensive. Now you understand this. A calm mind always thinks 2 moves ahead. And once you see ahead, you stop making desperate moves. But there's another trap that destroys calm faster than pressure. The need to explain yourself. Let's talk about that next. Chapter 4. Stop explaining yourself. Explaining feels responsible. Explaining feels polite. Explaining feels like clarity. But most of the time, explaining is a weakness in disguise. That's the key. Strong people do not explain themselves unnecessarily. Weak people explain everything. And the difference is not intelligence. It's control. Most explanations are not asked for. They are offered out of fear. Fear of being misunderstood. Fear of being judged. Fear of losing approval. You have a choice. You can explain to be liked. Or you can stay silent and be respected. Explaining is emotional leakage. Just like reacting. Just like defending. Just like justifying. Every unnecessary explanation gives away position. Think about it. When you explain too much, you signal doubt. When you justify your decisions, you signal insecurity. When you defend your choices, you signal that others have authority over them. That's the cost. Calm people don't rush to explain. They state facts. They set boundaries. They move on. They trust their direction. You don't need their permission to choose your path. You don't need approval to say no. You don't need validation to stay silent. That's the key. Over-explaining usually sounds like this. I just want to clarify. Let me explain why. I didn't mean it that way. Notice something. It's always emotional. It's always reactive. It's always defensive. And defense is a weak position. Strong positions don't defend themselves. They stand. Calm people understand this. They know that the more you explain, the more people question. The more you justify, the more people push. The more you talk, the more you give others material to use against you. Silence limits exposure. That's discipline. In leadership, over-explaining kills authority. In relationships, it kills attraction. In negotiations, it kills leverage. Because explanations invite debate. Silence closes it. You have a choice. When someone questions your decision, you can explain it emotionally. or you can repeat it calmly. When someone disagrees, you can justify, or you can restate your boundary. Calm repetition beats emotional explanation every time. That's the key. Let's be clear. This is not about being rude. This is not about being cold. This is about being grounded. You can be respectful without being verbose. You can be kind without being transparent. You can be clear without being emotional. It's not about confidence. It's about discipline. Confidence speaks loudly when it's fake. Discipline stays quiet because it doesn't need proof. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. And the person who explains the most is usually the least certain. People who know where they're going don't narrate every step. They move. Think about high performers. They don't explain why they train. They don't justify their routines. They don't debate their standards. They show up consistently. Results speak. That's the key. Over-explaining also comes from guilt. Guilt for choosing yourself. Guilt for setting boundaries. Guilt for not meeting expectations. But guilt is not guidance. It's conditioning. You don't owe everyone access to your reasoning. You don't owe everyone your emotional labor. You don't owe everyone comfort. You have a choice. Here's a practical rule. If no one asked for an explanation, don't give one. If someone demands justification aggressively, pause. Silence forces them to expose intent. Calm people let others talk themselves into clarity. And that silence is powerful. In conversations, the first person to over-explain loses frame. The calm one holds it. The frame is controlled. When you explain, you enter their frame of reference. When you stay calm, they must enter yours. That's discipline. Another hard truth. Most people don't want explanations. They want reactions. They want to see if they can shake you. They want to know if they can pull emotion out of you. They want to know if they matter enough to control your behavior. Silence denies them that. That's the key. Explaining yourself also trains people to question you. If you always justify, they expect justification. If you always defend, they expect defense. But if you state and stand, people adjust. They always do. Calm consistency trains respect. You don't need their permission to be firm. You don't need approval to be brief. You don't need validation to stop talking. You have a choice. Instead of explaining, try this. State your decision once. Calmly. Clearly. Then stop. If they push, repeat the same sentence. No extra words. No emotion. This is called controlled repetition. It's powerful because it shows certainty. And certainty ends arguments. That's the key. Silence after a statement is not awkward. It's intentional. Let the silence sit. Let them fill it if they need to. Let them process. Most people talk themselves into submission when faced with calm resistance. Over-explaining also drains energy. It's mentally exhausting. It keeps you in other people's heads. Calm people don't live there. They live by their own standards, their own pace, their own direction. That's discipline. Remember this. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to be effective. Understanding follows results, not explanations. You have a choice. You can spend your life explaining yourself to people who don't matter. Or you can focus your energy on building something that does. Silence protects momentum. Every word you don't say saves energy. Every explanation you skip preserves authority. Every boundary you hold quietly strengthens your position. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. And the one explaining the most is usually losing ground. Stop explaining. Start standing. You've learned that silence is control. You've learned that emotional reactions are expensive. You've learned to think ahead and stay calm. Now you've learned this. Explaining yourself weakens your position. And once you stop explaining, something changes. You stop seeking approval and start building discipline. That's where real power begins. But discipline doesn't come from hype. It doesn't come from motivation. It comes from something quieter. Let's talk about that. Chapter 5. Quiet discipline beats loud motivation. Motivation is loud. Discipline is quiet. Motivation shouts, "Start now." Discipline whispers, "Continue tomorrow." That's the key. Most people wait to feel motivated. They wait for energy. They wait for confidence. They wait for the perfect mood. And while they wait, nothing changes. Quiet discipline does not wait. Discipline moves without emotion. Discipline acts without excitement. Discipline shows up even when the feeling is gone. You have a choice. You can chase motivation, or you can build discipline. Motivation feels powerful, but it's unstable. It spikes, then crashes. It excites, then disappears. Discipline is boring. And that's why it works. It's not about intensity. It's about consistency. That's the difference most people never learn. Motivated people start strong. Disciplined people finish. Look closely at your past. How many times were you motivated? How many times did you feel inspired? How many times did you promise yourself, "This time is different"? And how many times did you stop when it got uncomfortable? That's not a motivation problem. That's a discipline problem. That's the key. Quiet discipline doesn't announce itself. It doesn't post. It doesn't explain. It doesn't seek recognition. It just repeats, day after day. When it's boring. When it's hard. When no one is watching. You don't need their permission to work quietly. You don't need approval to stay consistent. You don't need validation to keep going. You have a choice. Motivation depends on emotion. Discipline depends on decision. Emotion changes. Decision stays. That's why discipline outlasts talent. That's why discipline beats confidence. That's why discipline destroys excuses. Most people overestimate what motivation can do, and underestimate what discipline can build. Discipline builds identity. When you do something every day, even quietly, you stop asking, "Who do I want to be?" and start becoming it. That's the fundamental transformation. Motivation wants immediate results. Discipline accepts delayed rewards. Motivation says, "I'll try." Discipline says, "I will." That's the key. Loud motivation is emotional. Quiet discipline is mechanical. And mechanics win long term. Think about training. The loud person talks about workouts. The disciplined person trains when no one is there. Think about learning. The loud person announces goals. The disciplined person studies silently. Think about life. The loud person wants recognition. The disciplined person wants results. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. The most motivated person is usually the least consistent. Because motivation needs fuel. Discipline is the fuel. You have a choice. When you wake up tired, you can negotiate with your feelings. Or you can follow your routine. When progress feels slow, you can quit emotionally. Or you can continue mechanically. Discipline removes debate. There is no argument. There is no drama. There is just action. That's discipline. Quiet discipline also protects you from the ego. Motivation feeds the ego. It wants praise. It wants excitement. It wants proof. Discipline starves the ego. It doesn't care how it looks. It cares how it compounds. That's the key. People fail not because they are incapable, but because they rely on feelings to carry them. Feelings are unreliable. Discipline is boring enough to be stable, and stability wins. Here's the truth most people avoid. If you need motivation, you're already in trouble. Because motivation means resistance exists. Discipline removes resistance by making action automatic. You don't decide every day. You don't debate every day. You don't feel every day. You execute. That's power. You don't need their permission to be boring. You don't need approval to be consistent. You don't need validation to repeat the basics. You have a choice. Here's how quiet discipline looks in practice. You set a small standard. You follow it daily. No matter how you feel. You don't increase intensity. You increase reliability. You don't add complexity. You remove excuses. That's discipline. Discipline is not about pushing harder. It's about showing up softer, but every day. Motivation wants dramatic change. Discipline builds slow certainty. And certainty is unshakable. Think long-term. 10 minutes a day for years beats one intense week. Small effort, repeated, beats massive attempt, abandoned. That's the key. Most people want transformation without boredom. But boredom is the training ground of discipline. If you can stay calm in boredom, pressure won't touch you. Quiet discipline also builds trust in yourself. Every time you keep a promise, even a small one, your self-respect increases. Every time you break one, you weaken your internal authority. Discipline restores that authority. You stop lying to yourself. You stop negotiating. You stop quitting quietly. That's transformation. You have a choice. You can wait to feel ready. Or you can act ready and let feelings catch up. Feelings always follow action. Never the other way around. That's the key. Motivation asks, do I feel like it? Discipline asks, what's required? One question keeps you stuck. The other moves your life forward. Quiet discipline doesn't care if today feels special. It treats today like every other day. And that's why it wins. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. And the most motivated person is usually the least consistent. Calm, disciplined people don't look impressive early. They look unstoppable later. That's the trade. Short-term excitement for long-term power. Silence for strength. Routine for results. Discipline for freedom. Because discipline is freedom. Freedom from mood. Freedom from excuses. Freedom from chaos. You've learned that silence is control. You've learned that reactions are expensive. You've learned that calm thinks ahead. You've learned to stop explaining. Now you understand this. Quiet discipline beats loud motivation every time. But discipline alone is not enough. Because even disciplined people can be controlled. If others can trigger them. So next, we go deeper. We talk about how silence breaks other people's control over you. Chapter 6. Silence breaks other people's control over you. Control is rarely taken by force. It's usually handed over. Handed over through reactions. Through explanations. Through emotional responses that were never required. That's the key. People control you when they can predict you. When they know which buttons to press. When they know how to pull emotion out of you on demand. Silence breaks that control. Because silence makes you unreadable. You have a choice. You can be emotionally available to everyone. Or you can be selectively unavailable. Most people are too accessible. Too reactive. Too explainable. And because of that, they are easy to manipulate. Manipulation doesn't require intelligence. It requires access. Silence removes access. That's discipline. Think about it. If someone can make you angry whenever they want, they control you. If someone can trigger guilt, fear, or defensiveness on command, they control you. If someone can rush you emotionally, they control you. Calm people are expensive to control. They don't give instant reactions. They don't explain under pressure. They don't respond emotionally to provocation. And that frustrates manipulators. That's the key. People who rely on control need feedback. They need a reaction. They need confirmation that their words or actions landed. Silence gives them nothing. And when they get nothing, they lose interest. You don't need their permission to stay silent. You don't need approval to disengage. You don't need validation to protect your emotional space. You have a choice. Silence is not passive. It's active resistance. It's saying, you don't get access to my inner world. That boundary is powerful. Most people think strength is about dominance, raising your voice, winning arguments, asserting yourself loudly. But absolute dominance is non-reactivity. If nothing can shake you, nothing can control you. That's discipline. Look at everyday dynamics. The person who reacts emotionally is always chasing the frame. The calm one holds it. When someone insults you, and you respond emotionally, they control the direction of the interaction. When you stay calm and silent, they are forced to sit with their own behavior. Silence mirrors people back to themselves. That's uncomfortable for unstable personalities. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. But the one who stays calm under attack is the most difficult to control. That's the key. Silence also exposes intent. When you stop reacting, people reveal why they were trying to provoke you. They talk more. They escalate. They contradict themselves. All while you stay still. Calm people gather information while others lose control. That's an advantage. You have a choice. When someone pressures you for an answer, you can rush to comply, or you can pause. When someone demands an explanation, you can defend, or you can calmly repeat your boundary. When someone tries to guilt you, you can apologize emotionally, or you can stay silent and let the feeling pass. Silence breaks emotional hooks. Manipulators use urgency. They use guilt. They use confusion. Silence neutralizes all three. That's the key. Urgency loses power when you don't rush. Guilt fades when you don't feed it. Confusion clears when you don't engage emotionally. Silence is clarity. This is especially important in close relationships. Family, friends, colleagues. People who know you well know your emotional patterns. They know what triggers you. They know how to pull reactions out of you. Silence forces them to adjust. At first, they resist. They push harder. They escalate. That's normal. When control is removed, it panics. But if you stay consistent, the dynamic changes. People either respect the boundary or remove themselves. Both outcomes are wins. That's discipline. You don't need their permission to change how you show up. You don't need approval to stop engaging emotionally. You don't need validation to protect your peace. You have a choice. Silence also protects you from emotional traps. Drama, gossip, conflict that has nothing to do with your goals. Emotionally, people try to pull you into their storms. Silence keeps you dry. You observe without entering. You hear without absorbing. You remain untouched. That's power. Calm people are not cold. They are selective. They choose where to invest emotion. They choose where to speak. They choose where to engage. Everything else gets nothing. That's the key. If you want to test this, try a simple exercise. The next time someone tries to provoke you, say nothing. No defense. No explanation. No emotional response. Just calm eye contact. Or silence. Watch what happens. Most people collapse under the weight of their own words. Silence forces accountability without effort. And effort saved is energy gained. Silence also teaches people how to treat you. If you tolerate emotional manipulation, you invite more. If you tolerate disrespect, you train it. Silence combined with boundaries retrain behavior. That's discipline. Remember this. You cannot be controlled if you are not reactive. You cannot be manipulated if you are not emotional. You cannot be rushed if you are not attached. Silence is detachment. Detachment is freedom. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. But the calm one who cannot be triggered is the most powerful. Because control requires access. And silence denies it. You've learned that silence is control. You've learned that reactions are expensive. You've learned to think ahead and stay calm. You've learned to stop explaining. You've learned that discipline beats motivation. Now you see this. Silence breaks other people's control over you. But silence alone is not enough. Because knowing when to speak matters as much as knowing when not to. Timing is everything. That's what we talk about next. Chapter 7. The Power of Delayed Response. Speed feels impressive. Delay feels uncomfortable. And that discomfort is exactly why delay is powerful. Most people respond immediately. They answer right away. They react on instinct. Not because it's smart, but because silence makes them nervous. That's the key. A delayed response is not hesitation. It's control. When you delay, you create space. Space between emotion and action. Space between pressure and decision. And in that space, you gain an advantage. You have a choice. You can respond instantly and lose leverage. Or you can pause and take it. Immediate responses feel honest. Delayed responses feel intentional. Intentional always wins. Think about conversations. When someone sends a message, and you reply instantly every time, you train them to expect access. When you pause, you change the dynamic. You're no longer reactive. You're selective. That's discipline. Delayed response does 3 things at once. First, it calms your nervous system. Second, it weakens emotional urgency. Third, it forces the other person to reveal more. That's the key. Urgency is a tool of control. People use it to rush you into decisions you didn't fully consider. Answer now. Decide quickly. Don't overthink. Those are pressure phrases. Calm people ignore them. They slow down. And when you slow down, pressure loses power. You don't need their permission to pause. You don't need approval to think. You don't need validation to delay. You have a choice. Delayed response also protects you from regret. Most regret comes from fast decisions. From emotional replies. From words sent without distance. Delay gives you distance. Distance gives you clarity. Clarity gives you better outcomes. That's discipline. Think about arguments. The fastest response is usually the worst one. It's sharp. It's emotional. It escalates. Delayed response de-escalates without effort. Silence cools heat. By the time you respond, the moment has already shifted. That's the key. In negotiations, delay is leverage. The one who waits controls the pace. The one who rushes reveals need. Need is weakness. Calm people never reveal need. They delay. They let silence work. And silence always works on impatient minds. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. And the fastest responder is usually the easiest to control. Speed exposes attachment. Delay signals strength. You have a choice. In daily life, delay is a filter. Not every message deserves an answer. Not every question deserves clarification. Not every situation deserves engagement. Delay helps you decide what matters. Here's a rule. If something triggers emotion, delay your response. Always. Anger wants speed. Fear wants speed. Excitement wants speed. None of them is a good decision maker. Delay removes them from the driver's seat. That's the key. Delayed response also changes how people treat you. They stop expecting instant access. They stop pushing urgency. They start respecting your time. Time is power. When you control your time, you control your life. You don't need their permission to protect it. You have a choice. This does not mean ignoring everything. It means choosing when to engage. Delayed does not mean never. It means intentional. Calm people answer on their terms, not on demand. That's discipline. Here's how to practice delayed response. Pause your breathing before replying. Write the response, then don't send it. Wait an hour. Reread it. Most of the time, you'll change it. Or delete it entirely. That's growth. Silence often does more than words ever could. Delayed response also builds emotional resilience. You prove to yourself that you don't need to react, that you can sit with discomfort, that you are not controlled by impulse. That builds confidence the right way. Not loud. Not fake. Quiet and stable. That's the key. People who can delay are dangerous, in a good way. Because they are unpredictable. Because they are thoughtful. Because they don't move emotionally. Pressure has nowhere to land. Delay also exposes bad intentions. When you don't answer immediately, manipulative people escalate. They push. They guilt. They demand. And now you see them clearly. Calm people collect data while others lose control. That's an advantage. You have a choice. React fast and stay emotional. Or delay and remain powerful. Most people never learn this. They live at the mercy of notifications, demands, and impulses. Calm people live by choice. Delayed response is a discipline. And like all disciplines, it must be practiced daily. Minor delays build big control. You don't need their permission to slow down. You don't need approval to pause your reply. You don't need validation to think first. The loudest person in the room is usually the least dangerous. And the one who cannot wait is usually the weakest. Delay trains patience. Patience trains clarity. Clarity trains dominance. That's the chain. You've learned that silence removes control. You've learned that delay increases leverage. But there's a deeper layer to calm. Because calm is not built in chaos. It's built when nothing is happening. That's what separates real mental toughness from performance. Let's talk about that. Chapter 8. Calm is built in boring moments. Most people think calm is something you access in a crisis. They're wrong. Calm is not built when pressure hits. Calm is revealed when pressure hits. Calm is built somewhere else. In the dull moments. In the quiet minutes no one posts about. In the repetitions that feel pointless. That's the key. You don't suddenly become calm when chaos arrives. You default to whatever you practiced when nothing was happening. And that's why most people fail under pressure. Their daily lives are emotional, impulsive, noisy, and undisciplined. So when stress shows up, they don't rise. They leak. You have a choice. You can stay calm when life is boring. Or you can beg for control when life is on fire. Let's be honest. Dull moments are where discipline goes to die for ordinary people. No urgency. No audience. No adrenaline. So they scroll. They snack. They talk. They distract themselves. And every time they do, they reinforce chaos. Because calm is not an emotion. It's a system. It's not about being relaxed. It's about being regulated. You don't need motivation in dull moments. You need standards. That's the key. Look at high-level operators, athletes, commanders, executives. They don't train only on game day. They train when it's dull, when it's repetitive, when it's uncomfortable in a quiet way. That's where control is built. You have a choice. When nothing demands your attention, do you give it away anyway? Or do you keep it? Because attention is power. And boredom is the test. Most emotional reactions don't start in a crisis. They start in boredom. Boredom leads to stimulation seeking. Stimulation leads to impulsive behavior. Impulses lead to habits. Habits decide how you respond under pressure. That's the chain. So when someone says, "I don't know why I overreacted," they're lying to themselves. They trained for it. They trained for it every time they checked their phone, rather than sitting still. Every time they filled the silence with noise. Every time they avoided stillness. Stillness exposes weakness. That's why people avoid it. When you sit in silence, your mind gets loud. Unfinished thoughts. Unresolved fears. Uncomfortable truths. Most people escape that immediately. They don't want calm. They want comfort. But comfort is expensive. It costs you control. Calm is built by doing boring things on purpose. Waking up at the same time. Training even when you don't feel like it. Eating without entertainment. Working without constant reward. Pausing before speaking. None of this looks impressive. That's why it works. You don't need their permission to be disciplined. You don't need applause. You don't need validation. That's the key. Calm people are not reactive because they've already spent time with themselves. They've already faced boredom. They've already trained in restraint. So when chaos shows up, it's not new. It's just louder. You have a choice. You can let boredom weaken you, or you can let it sharpen you. Here's a simple rule. If you can't control yourself when nothing is happening, you won't control yourself when everything is happening. That's not judgment. That's physics. Emotional control is not built in emergencies. It's built in repetition. Think about how you respond to minor annoyances. Slow internet, traffic, waiting rooms, silence. That's your real training ground. Do you tense up? Do you reach for distraction? Do you start talking? Do you complain? Those are rehearsals. And rehearsals become reflexes. That's the key. Calm people don't chase stimulation. They tolerate stillness. They can sit without reaching, wait without reacting, listen without interrupting. That's power. Not loud power. Quiet power. The kind that doesn't announce itself. You have a choice. Next time you're bored, don't escape it. Use it. Sit still for 5 minutes. No phone. No music. No talking. Watch what your mind does. You'll feel resistance. That's a weakness, leaving the body. You'll feel agitation. That's control being built. Most people quit here. You don't have to. It's not about being productive every second. It's about being composed every second. That's discipline. And discipline compounds. A calm mind is not rushed, because it doesn't fear emptiness. A reactive mind panics in silence, because it needs noise to avoid itself. Which one are you training? You don't need their permission to slow down. You don't need their permission to be quiet. You don't need their permission to be disciplined. That's the key. Dull moments are when you install the software that runs you into chaos. If your software is impulsive, emotional, distracted, that's what launches under pressure. If your software is calm, measured, deliberate, that's what shows up when it counts. You have a choice. Train boredom like a weapon. Use it to practice delayed response. Use it to practice silence. Use it to practice restraint. Because restraint is not weakness. It's stored strength. And stored strength is what separates calm leaders from loud followers. Most people want excitement. Calm people want control. And control is built when no one is watching. That's the truth. You mastered silence. You learned the cost of emotional reactions. You learned to think ahead. You stopped explaining yourself. You chose discipline over motivation. You broke external control. You learned to delay response. Now you understand where all of that is forged. In boredom. In repetition. In quiet discipline. But there's one final layer. The one that separates calm from dangerous. Because silence is powerful. But silence without boundaries can still be manipulated. You've built calm. Now you must learn how to protect it. Chapter 9. Guard your inner world ruthlessly. Your mind is a fortress. Your emotions are the gates. Every thought, every feeling, every impulse is either allowed inside or denied. Most people treat their inner world like a public park. Anyone can enter. Anyone can leave trash behind. Anyone can stir chaos. That's why most people are reactive. That's why most people feel drained. That's why most people feel out of control. You have a choice. You can leave your inner world unprotected. Or you can guard it as if your life depended on it. Because it does. Every external event only has power if you give it power. Every insult only hurts if you allow it. Every criticism only weakens if you absorb it. That's the key. Ruthlessly guarding your inner world starts with awareness. You must know what thoughts you allow. You must know what emotions you entertain. You must know what voices you listen to. Most people never notice the invaders. Complaints, gossip, negativity, judgment, they slip in unnoticed. And then they multiply. And then they control behavior. Not you. They do. You have a choice. Notice the subtle triggers. The text that sparks anger. The conversation that fuels anxiety. The memory that reignites shame. Please do not ignore them. Do not excuse them. Please do not allow them to settle in your mind. This is discipline. Every time you let negativity in, you are weakening your control. Every time you entertain gossip, you are wasting energy. Every time you let fear dominate, you give away power. Guarding your inner world is not passive. It is active. It is deliberate. It is ruthless. Here's how calm, influential people do it. Selective attention. They choose what to notice. They filter out distractions and drama. They ignore noise that doesn't serve their goals. Emotional boundaries. They do not absorb others' chaos. They do not give energy to manipulation. They do not justify or explain their feelings to control them. Mental hygiene. They replace toxic thoughts with strategic ones. They rewrite narratives that weaken them. They silence mental chatter that erodes calm. That's the key. Think about your daily interactions. How many times did someone else control your day by creating irritation? How many times did a careless word ruin your focus? How many times did internal doubt break your momentum? Now imagine stopping all of that. Silence the unnecessary inputs. Reject the irrelevant drama. Filter the emotions that are not yours. Suddenly, chaos loses its power. Suddenly, calm becomes your default. Suddenly, you operate above the noise. You have a choice. Guarding your inner world also means protecting your energy. Your attention is a finite resource. Your emotional energy is finite. If you spend it on other people's problems, you lose it for your own. If you react to everything, you lose sight of what matters. If you absorb every insult, every slight, every opinion, you weaken yourself. Discipline is energy management. You have a choice. Ruthless guarding also requires letting go. Let go of what you cannot control. Let go of what does not serve your mission. Let go of people who constantly drain you. Letting go is not a weakness. It is a strength. It is clarity. It is freedom. The loudest people, the most emotional people, the manipulative people, they are not more powerful than you. They are louder. They are reactive. They are visible. You are quiet. You are deliberate. You are untouchable. You have a choice. Every day, reinforce your inner fortress. Decide what you will allow. Decide what you will reject. Decide where you will focus. Ruthless does not mean cruel. It means intentional. It means disciplined. It means refusing to surrender control of your mind to external forces. Most people live in chaos because they are weak gatekeepers. Strong people never give that access. Strong people never debate the intrusion. Strong people never explain why a thought or emotion has no place in their fortress. They enforce boundaries. And that's the difference. A calm mind can only survive in a protected space. An emotional mind is destroyed by exposure. A disciplined mind thrives in controlled conditions. You have a choice. Begin today. Scan your environment. Scan your relationships. Scan your own internal dialogue. Remove the toxins. Reject the distractions. Silence the unnecessary noise. This is not a one-time task. It is daily. It is constant. It is relentless. Ruthless guarding is the secret weapon of calm, mentally tough, disciplined people. It ensures nothing steals your focus. It ensures nothing manipulates your mind. It ensures nothing hijacks your calm. You've learned silence. You've learned delayed response. You've learned discipline. Now you've learned the final layer. Your inner world is yours. Treat it like a fortress. Protect it ruthlessly. Because if you don't, no amount of calm, discipline, or silence will save you. And once you master this, you are untouchable. Next, we seal it all together. We summarize every lesson and give you the final challenge to apply it relentlessly. Chapter 10. Guard your inner world ruthlessly. Closing and call to action. You've learned a lot. You've gone step by step. And now it all comes together. Silence is control. Emotional reactions are expensive. The calm mind thinks 2 moves ahead. Stop explaining yourself. Quiet discipline beats loud motivation. Silence breaks other people's control. Delayed response builds leverage. Calm is forged in dull moments. And ruthless protection of your inner world makes you untouchable. That's the blueprint. And now it's your turn to execute. Here's the truth. Knowledge is useless without action. All the strategies, all the insights, all the lessons mean nothing if you continue to react impulsively, justify yourself, or hand over your power to others. You have a choice. You can go back to old habits. Or you can step into a new version of yourself. One that doesn't leak energy. One that doesn't chase validation. One that doesn't react at the whim of chaos. Discipline is your weapon. Silence is your shield. Ruthless protection of your mind is your fortress. Every day you practice this, you compound your power. Every day you refuse to explain, overreact, or chase motivation, you train your mind to default to calm. Every day you protect your inner world, you build a foundation no external force can shake. That's the key. No one can control you unless you allow it. No one can provoke you unless you react. No one can steal your peace unless you hand it over. You have a choice. So here's your challenge. Starting today, guard your mind. Protect your emotions. Delay your responses. Embrace boredom as training. Stay disciplined when no one is watching. Every word you don't speak unnecessarily, every reaction you hold back, every boundary you enforce quietly, strengthens you. You don't need their permission. You don't need their approval. You don't need validation. You need only one thing: discipline. Your inner world is yours. Defend it ruthlessly. Let calm, quiet, unstoppable discipline guide every choice you make. Do this consistently, and you will rise above chaos. You will operate above manipulation. You will move through life with clarity, confidence, and power that no one can touch. The choice is yours. Act now. Guard your mind. Guard your emotions. Guard your life. Because calm, discipline, and ruthless protection are not optional, they are essential. This is the final truth. Quiet power beats loud ambition. Discipline beats motivation. Silence beats chaos. And control beats manipulation. Now go. Practice it. Live it. Own it. Your inner world is sacred. Protect it ruthlessly. Your life depends on it. Silence is not about saying nothing. It is about owning yourself. When you stop reacting, you start leading. When you stop explaining, you start commanding. When you master calm, pressure has nowhere to land. The world rewards emotional people with attention, but it rewards calm people with power. So here is your challenge. For the next 7 days, pause before you speak. Delay before you react. Choose discipline over noise. Say less. Do more. Stay calm. And if this audiobook sharpened your mind, stay with this channel. Because the quiet ones, these are the ones who win.